So let's continue to inspire you on a design trend. If you've spotted a particularly interesting tile in someone's kitchen or bathroom, some homeware that stands out, or an especially vibrant garden pot, there is a pretty good chance that you've been looking at a piece of Liebermann Pottery.
That's right. Well, this renowned and ever-evolving South African range is still run by members of the greater family. As well as running a business, they are custodians of a precious art form and tradition.
Established in Johannesburg 7 years ago, Liebermann Pottery opened this branch in Cape Town near Kommetjie on a stunning 5-acre smallholding.
Sourced from the four corners of the earth, Liebermann Pottery has an amazing range of beautiful pottery and breathtaking workmanship from potters of Southern Africa and the world. It was founded in 1952 by Sammy Liebermann and is now run by his nephew, the pottery detective, Adriaan Turgel. Now, I consider myself a bit of an investigator, and I'm here to find out more about this wonderland of pottery.
Before their famous pots, the business began by following the Bernard Leach Shoji Hamada tradition of handmade tableware and dinnerware.
Adriaan, I'm told about the rich history of this place. Over 60 years, where did it all begin?
Liebermann Pottery was started in the early 50s by my uncle and aunt, Sammy Liebermann and Mary Liebermann. It's the oldest pottery in South Africa, and it's gone through some rebirths. So we started off as a tableware operation, made kind of iconic South African handmade tableware, which was collected by the grandmothers of people today and passed down to them. Then there was a period which I would characterize as the tile period, which was a period of a lot of hand-decorated wall tiles, mostly for kitchens, bathrooms. And then there's the period of the flower pot, which started in the late 80s, where we make a range of bright planters, which was started off by myself mostly, generally because there seemed to be a demand for something a little bit more cheerful coming out of the pottery industry. And then with the crash of the late 80s and the early 90s in the ceramic industry, I became very curious about pottery elsewhere in the world and how come they could survive and we were struggling. So I went overseas and started investigating. And that was the birth of the period of the pottery detective, which is the period where I spent a lot of time looking at what was going on in the world and bringing them to South Africa and showing the people this is what is being done elsewhere.
What is Liebermann Pottery's focus and why?
It's a kind of educational sort of period, trying to expose people to a vocabulary which will give them an idea of what they're looking at, what is handmade, what is wood-fired, what is traditional, what is a resolved shape, what is beautiful, and why is it collectible.
Rare porcelain and traditional ceramics inspired by Chinese pottery can be found in the same showroom wine and vinegar or pickle jars.
From tableware to planters and garden decor, please tell us about the extensive range that can be found here and that you continue to develop.
There's never, in my mind, enough pottery. I like to represent and have examples of every kind of pottery. I've become less of a snob, funnily enough, because I realize that there's some things that I don't like, but other people might like. So I've tried my best to invest in beautiful things from all over the world. And mostly I lean towards handmade wood-fired items, and because I like big things, a lot of big items. But the market dictates a lot of decorative stuff, a lot of ornamental stuff on a grand scale.
Adriaan's travels to the 2,000-year-old Eastern centers of ceramics see him return with a fabulous range of antique and contemporary influences.
You're known as the pottery detective, sourcing from the Far East and bringing it all home. What's your selection criteria for these fabulous pieces?
I travel about once a year for about 5 weeks, and I go to places that are famous for pottery, as well as places that I hear about or curious about. And every time I travel, I try to source the most interesting and sometimes exciting or curious items, or items that are no longer going to be available. I'm pretty taken with the fact that wood firing is coming to an end in the world, and handmade big pots are harder and harder to find. But I use my contacts and my experience to look for the most beautiful and most interesting. If you look at the stuff that's just standing around me at present, some of these pots are rare and beautiful and hard to find, and I really don't feel like selling them all. I would like to keep some for my private collection and also to put some in museums for the future generations. Although we make pottery, we do support local potteries as well. We buy their stuff, we sell their stuff, and we promote their stuff. I think that it's very important to develop and promote South African potters wherever possible. We're having an exhibition on the 9th of September, Andrew Walford. We have a pottery studio over there, and then there's a little pottery school run by Catherine over there, and then there's the laboratory we have as well for teaching people about glazes and so on. It's very important that we have an understanding and appreciation of handicrafts and of art, and we educate the public insofar as to what is beautiful, what is available, what is collectible, and what is pleasing to the people. In fact, we'd like to invite the South African public to our pottery fair on the 9th of September at 20 Kommetjie Road, Sunnydale. We're having a huge event. There'll be demonstrations, exhibitions, stalls, food, music. You're all welcome.
An exciting array of work by Southern African potters and ceramic artists, rural and urban, can be found here, always at great prices.
With everything you could need to turn your front yard into a stunning garden or spruce up your home with a few pots or urns, I can't think of anywhere else to go.
So interesting.
I know.
Oh, man, I love that.
A good time doing that.
Yeah, man, so much to learn and such an incredible history and culture there. So if you want to expose yourself a little more, on Sunday the 9th of September, for the first time, as you heard, Liebermann Pottery will host the Pottery Fair, an all-ceramic event, including a large stall area where ceramic artists from the Greater Cape Town area will showcase and sell some of their work.
Yep, visitors will also have the privilege of meeting South African pottery legend Andrew Walford, who's coming down from his studio in the Shongweni Hills in KwaZulu-Natal to host an exhibition and a 90-minute workshop for the first time at Liebermann Pottery.
And his exhibition will be running from the 9th up until the 30th of September at the Great Gallery at Liebermann Pottery. So go and check it out if you can. The event that promises to deliver a powerhouse of works, so don't miss out.